everybody, and welcome back to Straight Jacket White Rabbit. As usual, my name's Adam, and I'll be your host. We just got back, you guys, from Christmas break and New Year's break. I went on a little vacation with my family here, got to spend some time with my son, my daughter, my grandchildren, and my wife. Had a great holiday season. Now looking forward to the new year. Welcome to 2026. So, the last video I did, you guys, was on cursed ground in New Mexico, specifically the old New Mexico State Penitentiary in Santa Fe. Now we're going to jet set across the globe to another piece of accursed ground. We're going to go to Japan, you guys. That's right, Japan. Now, in Japan, there is a famous mountain, Mount Fuji, volcano. It's a volcano. Now, at the base of this gigantic volcano, there is a forest called Aokigahara. Aokigahara Forest. Now, the reason this forest is such a big deal is because you might not have heard of it by this name. It's also been dubbed the Suicide Forest. Now, the reason for this, we're going to get into, obviously, it's pretty self-explanatory. There are a lot of people who have chosen to take their lives in this forest. Now, when I say a lot, I'm talking about over a few thousand people. So, let's hop into this and see where it goes. So, Aokigahara Forest, you guys, like I said, is at the base of Mount Fuji. It's surrounded by 3 different caves. Beautiful caves. They're not very big. They're not like the giant, 3-4 mile long caves that we have here in the U.S. But they're very beautiful. There's an ice cave, a bat cave, and another cave. I don't remember what the name of it was. But I want to say it was another, Cave of the Wind or something like that. But they're very cool looking caves, and they're a big tourist draw. But what is even a bigger tourist draw is the Aokigahara Forest. Sorry, I can't speak today. Now, in Aokigahara Forest, you guys, they're all around it, at all entrances, pathed entrances, I should say, to this forest, there are signs that go all the way around this thing talking about suicide prevention and think of your family. I actually want to pull up the sign right here so I can read it directly for you guys. These signs all have messages on them. I'm not going to read the entire thing because it's kind of long, but I will give you the basic English interpretation of what it says. It says, "Your life is a precious gift from your parents. Please think about your parents, siblings, and children. Do not keep it to yourself. Talk about your troubles." And then it goes on to give numbers for, we'll call it suicide hotlines, where people can discuss their issues, and tells them to please call these numbers if they're thinking about harming themselves. Now, you guys, while suicide is not by any means an option to me, I would never consider it. People do, and it's a sad topic. To be honest, a lot of people do. It's more of a common problem than it should be. But this forest is different, you guys. Thousands of people have died in this forest by taking their own life, and by a practice known as Ubasut, which is debated in Japanese history. We know that this practice took place in Japan. We do not know how widespread it was. Some people say that it was very widespread. Others say not so much. More rare occurrences. However, there are numerous accounts of this being performed at Aokigahara Forest. Now, a lot of these people chalk these up to old legends, things of that accord, and things of that nature. But I'm not so sure. Now, let me explain to you, first of all, what Ubasut is. It is the practice of taking either the elderly or the disabled to the point where they can no longer care for themselves, and leaving them, usually either high up in the mountains, in a forest, a very large place of solitude where not a lot of people travel. What they would do is they would leave their family members here to perish via starvation, exposure, or possibly even animals. Now, the reason they did this was usually, this practice was usually because of things like extreme famine. So, not enough food to feed your entire household, or things of this nature. It was during extreme times. They didn't just do this for fun. But it still happened. Now, regardless, like I said, on how often it happened, you guys, that is debatable. But there are legends talking about this going way back through the Aokigahara forest. So, we already have kind of a grim start to this forest, okay? Its last eruption killed lots of people, which was a long time ago, I'll grant you. Then you have the myths and legends of people bringing their elderly or incapacitated loved ones to leave them in this forest to die. Those of you who've watched my channel about the ghost episodes that I've done know that that is just begging to create spirits, unnaturally irritable spirits, we'll call them. I'd be perturbed too if you dropped me in a forest to die. Now, as far as suicides go, they try, and by they I mean the Japanese government, they try to explain this off due to a few books that were published since, I believe it was in the 60s. Yeah, 1961. And there's also one later they blamed. But there was a book called The Tower of Waves in 1961 that was about these lovers, one of which committed suicide in this forest. Fast forward a few more years, there was another best-selling novel that came out that was literally called The Complete Manual of Suicide. And it recommends Aokigahara Forest as the perfect place to die. That's creepy enough for me. But then you add in the numbers, you guys, and it doesn't make sense, because even before these books came out, there was anywhere between 20 and 80 people a year who would kill themselves in this forest. Now, since the book's release in 61 and after, the numbers have gone up. In the early 2000s, we know that the numbers were roughly 100 people a year successfully committed suicide in these forests. But these are numbers of bodies recovered. That is the only numbers they put on their official account. Even the Japanese government admits that because of the composition of this forest, it's almost impossible to find all of the bodies. You have to understand, Aokigahara Forest, you guys, is a very moist, very dense forest, okay? There's a lot of moss covering all the rocks. This is a forest that is known for its lack of sound. Not because there's no sound in the forest, but because of the ground, the porous rock from this volcano mixed in with the dense foliage. Sound really doesn't escape this place very well. It's almost like its own soundproof room. Yeah, kind of sucks. Haunted forest, soundproof. This is starting to sound like the beginning of a horror movie I saw before. But it's true. People will come into these woods, sometimes camping for days before doing the unthinkable. Others will come in and get right to work on ending their life. Now, no matter who you are, you guys, I don't support suicide. I don't wish that on anybody. And if you are having trouble, or if you know anyone who's thinking about it, talk to them. Get them to talk to someone else. Get them to seek counseling. Talk to family. Things like this, you guys. It's never a good way out. But going back to this forest, people have been seeing apparitions in this forest going back as far as as records date. They've always believed this forest to be a haunted forest. Now, there's a lot of strange activity in here. Like I said, the silence, the overwhelming sense of being watched from the moment you go into these woods. Also, because of the magnetics in these rocks, in the lava rocks, compasses and GPS tend not to work inside this forest. Now, many people in Aokigahara forest who have actually been in this forest have said that not only can they hear people off in the distance, but some people have claimed to be beckoned off trail by people trying to call their names. This is a typical spirit trick, you guys. They try to lure you deeper in the woods so that you fall off the path. These woods are so dangerous that there are constant reminders all the way around on the paths telling you, do not stray off these paths. People get lost and die here. They lose their way and they can't find their way out. This has been documented on many times with people's personal belongings being found in, say, their tent or campsites, who have left notes telling people that they're not there to kill themselves. They just got lost and they haven't been able to get out. There have even been situations like this where people have been recovered, thankfully, but a lot of them have not been recovered. We've just found belongings. Now, this forest has become more and more popularized since about the late 2000 and like right around 2005, 2006. And the reason it got popularized with ghost hunting is because there have been a lot of videos out showing apparitions coming out of the ground, coming out from behind trees, disembodied voices, Class A EVPs. I mean, it just is one thing after another that it's proof after proof after proof that there is spiritual trouble in these woods. And I say trouble because these are not your normal spirits, you guys. A lot of these spirits are angry. They're stuck here. And by mediums and psychics' accounts, they can't leave the forest. Their souls are stuck where they died. These are not like free-roaming apparitions that can go from place to place. They are literally penned in this forest. This is also not a completely safe forest just from animals alone, you guys. The Asian black bears in there. They have other animal life in there that can do harm to humans. Now, while that is a lot less likely, unfortunately, than the amount of suicides that take place in there, these are still encounters with wild animals that could end very badly for people, and probably, let's face it, probably have at some point through history. So you add on natural deaths and suicides and the people who got lost. There are legends of murders, but I'm not going to include those because I don't have specific instances, just hearsay legends and folklore. But there are legends of murders as well in these woods, but those are not the numbers we're talking about. I'm talking about the suicides alone. 2,000 plus that we know of. These are not unconfirmed. These are not someone just went missing. These are, we have found the bodies. This is a lot of suicide, you guys. That's a lot of spiritual energy to be collected in one place, simply from despair and anguish, loneliness. These types of ghosts, when they die, you guys, tend to stick around, and over time, you have to understand, a lot of these spirits over time become bitter and resentful. And therefore, they can become problematic. They can attack the living, they can lash out. So, I am going to list Aokigahara Forest as probably one of the top haunted forests of the world. Now, every year they have thousands of people, tourists, who come to this forest to specifically look for ghosts, to do ghost hunting. And although it upsets some of the locals, Japan in particular has a very large cultural obsession with spirits in the afterlife. So it's not quite as unusual as it is here, let's say, in the United States, where ghost hunting tends to get a negative view from a lot of people unless you're a popularized TV personality. There, it's a whole nother story. People are constantly posting photos of spirits and things they encounter because they are true believers there of this. And they want this to be real. And they have found out it is in many ways. Now, I'm not saying all of their photos are real. There is also a huge black market out there for fake photographs. Anything that will, generate clicks and clickbait type material. But the Aokigahara Forest, you guys, is amazing when it comes to real, factual hauntings. There has been everything from full possession to objects moving and levitating on their own, Class A EVPs, disembodied voices, mimicry. For those of you who don't know, mimicry is where they mimic you. It's exactly what it sounds like. You can hear your voice or the voice of someone else in your group calling off to you in the distance to come to them. The problem is this usually leads people off these trails, which can in turn make them become disorientated and turned around, lost in the woods. Do they get out? We don't think they all do. In fact, we know they don't all get out. There's been many people who have died in this forest simply, like I said, from being lost. So what is it about this ancient forest at the base of this revered volcano that causes people to come there to end their life? There's got to be a dark power, a dark hold on this land that is causing people to come to this specific point. Like I said, this is only on one side of the actual volcano base itself, you guys. This is not a forest that completely surrounds the volcano. There's other places there as well, like the 3 caves that I mentioned prior that are around this forest and around the volcano. There are other places people could choose to commit these acts, but they all go to the forest, or at least the majority of them do. The caves do have a couple of suicide attempts. They don't publish a lot about those, so I don't have a lot of information on them. As a matter of fact, the Japanese government is so upset about the numbers in the Aokigahara forest that they actually quit publicizing the precise number of deaths as they used to do back in the early 2000s. They quit publishing the numbers of deaths. They were like, there's too many and it's just going up, and the more we publicize it, the more people are going here, and it's just upping it. Like I said, the numbers used to be under 100 a year, but they were still significant. Since 2000s, they've gone above 100 deaths a year. We do know this for sure. There are over 100 deaths each year in the 2000s. Now, we're in 2025, so do the math. 100 deaths a year just for the last 25 years. Okay. Like I said, the numbers I'm giving you of suicides are confirmed suicides by the state or government agencies, things like that. But they haven't released them all. By their own account, they haven't released all of these. So there's no telling how large this number really is, you guys. And with the natural energy from the volcano, from the nearby water sources, this place is like a spirit's powerful, I can't even explain it to you. This is like a power vortex for spirits, okay? There's plenty of places for them to draw energy in. They don't have to just take it from visitors of the forest. There are plenty of natural ways to draw energy in this forest for these spirits, which is why a lot of people believe they get such clear imagery and EVPs and things in this forest, is simply because of the fact that these spirits are not wanting for more energy to communicate. They have the energy. This forest has actually had fairly good photography of full-bodied apparitions. What was the show? I think it was a Josh Gates show. Someone might know out there. I believe it was Josh Gates who, on one of his shows, did an episode on this particular forest. And they actually got surprising footage of what looks to be a human-shaped apparition, literally coming up from out of the ground and then sinking back down into the ground very slowly. It looks really creepy. If I can find the footage, I'll pin it. If not, you guys go ahead and look it up. I'm sure you guys can find it online fairly easy. But these types of things happen in this forest a lot. There's also been rumors that adults tend to be more susceptible. Now, whether that's because of the stresses of life and things of this nature tend to affect adults more. That's why more adults suffer from depression to the point of being suicidal than most children do. There's a lot more suicidal adults than there are children in the world. And it sucks either way, whether you're an adult or a child, but those are the numbers. However, there are spirits of children in these woods, as well as old people, like I said, just regular people who've committed suicide. It's not really just a one type of spirit place. Now, a lot of people who've gone in who are sensitives say that they feel an overwhelming sadness and like just a deep, bottomless pit feeling in your soul. Almost of just complete despair, which I understand. You have to realize with how many people have killed themselves here because of these types of feelings that they're having, of being alone, of being, you know what I mean, just being in that mind state to take one's own life. I can only imagine the suffering and misery that this place must project, energetically speaking. Now, there have been mediums and psychics, like I said, who have gone into these woods, and most of them say the same thing. Yes, there is a lot of sadness, there is a lot of regret, but there's also a lot of anger. People don't realize that spirits do change. Just because you die an okay person doesn't mean your ghost stays okay. Sometimes you get angry. And over time, these spirits get more and more resentful of their fate. They tend to lash out. And a lot of times that's at humans. And the reason for this is just simply because you have to remember, a lot of these people who are tethered to a specific point cannot leave. And we don't know how these rules work and why some ghosts are tethered and others aren't. But if you were tethered to this place and alone, in my opinion, if you were already so alone and depressed and in that state of mind that you were willing to do that with your own life, and then you were stuck in this place alone for even longer, I can understand how that would make some of these spirits lash out. So I am putting Aokigahara Forest at the top of my list, like I said, for supernatural hauntings. Definitely in the top 3 haunted forests in the world. Now, whether or not it's cursed land, like my last video, is debatable, you guys. And I welcome the conversation to it. But the fact of the matter is you can't argue with the numbers. Thousands of suicides. untold number of deaths. Was the Ubasut tradition of abandoning the elderly and the incapable, was it really done in this forest? If so, how many more people have died in here that were completely unaccounted for back then? If you want to learn more about this, I go ahead and recommend that you look into the Aokigahara Forest. It's Aokigahara. Aokigahara Forest in Japan. It's phenomenal as far as a backstory goes, you guys. It's got an amazing, I mean, look at the photos of this place. The treetops are so dense, you guys, this is not an exaggeration, that inside this forest, it's almost nighttime during the middle of the day. It's so dimly lit through the tree's canopy that it's like a perpetual twilight inside the forest. Barely any light gets through. So it is an amazing place to look at. I'd love to visit it one day, with or without my equipment, quite frankly. It's just a naturally beautiful place as it is. But it's also a very spiritual place and a very powerful place. And it has been revered as a place of extreme supernatural energy. That's going to be all on my thoughts for the Aokigahara Forest, you guys. I'm going to have a couple more videos dropping fairly soon. One of them is about Bigfoot. More specifically, the Bigfoot attacks in Canada back in the early 2000s at a cabin on a lake in Canada. So stay tuned for that video. It's going to be a fun time. Very interesting story, that one. And I will see you guys later. Just remember, if you need help, ask for help. Reach out to someone who cares. And remember that you guys are all, every last one of you, even if I don't always agree with you, or even if other people don't like you, you're all valuable. You all have self-worth. And I urge you, if you know anyone who is considering or contemplating doing harm to themselves, you guys talk to them, speak up, let them know that you care. Let them know that there are people who will listen to their problems. So for tonight, you guys, this has been Straight Jacket White Rabbit, telling you guys to love one another, watch out for one another, and stay awesome.